All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It's that time of the week, folks. My key games for the upcoming weekend in the world of college football. Want to get started tomorrow night in the ACC as you have Florida State traveling to take on Louisville. For the Noles, they are looking to win their first game, their first ACC game of the season, as well as improving to 3-0. Mike Norvell and his Seminoles are off to a solid start this year. A lot of that can be attributed to quarterback Jordan Travis. I also expect running back Trayshawn Ward to have a big game in this one if Florida State's going to go on the road and get the victory, as well as defensive end Jared Verse, who in 2 games with Florida State already has 3 sacks, and he's really been wreaking havoc in regards to creating pressure. Now, for Louisville, as Malik Cunningham, their quarterback, goes, so do the fortunes of the Cardinals. I expect running back Tyron Evans, as well as wide receiver Tyler Hudson, to have impacts in this game for the Cards. I think this is going to be a back and forth affair. To me, I think it's kind of a swing game. And I say that from the standpoint, whoever wins this game, they definitely will have some momentum in the ACC race. And if you're Louisville, you definitely want to avoid losing this game at home. But also, you would then fall to 0-2 in the ACC. Remember, they lost their opener at Syracuse. But with that said, I'm going to take Florida State on the road in this one by the score of 28-27. Now, moving ahead to Saturday, you're going to have the number one team, the new number one team, the Georgia Bulldogs, traveling to Columbia to take on the South Carolina Gamecocks. And this is the first conference game of the year for the Dogs. Also, technically their first road game of the year. Remember, they went to Atlanta and knocked off Oregon or ran through Oregon to begin the year. But when Georgia goes to Atlanta, that's really a home away uh, from home, if you will, because it's not too far from the campus in Atlanta. I mean, in Athens, excuse me. But with that said, quarterback Stetson Bennett, he's now a seasoned veteran back there, running things on offense for head coach Kirby Smart. Keep an eye on running back Kendall Milton, running behind this powerful Georgia offensive line. Now, for South Carolina, of course, really can't call him the Oklahoma transfer anymore because now he's got a couple of games under his belt as the South Carolina starting quarterback. And I'm speaking of Spencer Rattler. But make no mistake about it, this is going to be the toughest defense that Rattler has gone up against in his college career. And with that said, I don't see South Carolina being able to slow down Georgia in this one. This one going to take the Bulldogs on the road by the score of 41-17. Now it's going to be the sixth ranked Sooners of Oklahoma out of the Big 12, traveling to Lincoln to take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers out of the Big 10. And once upon a time, this used to be the game in the Big 8 conference. A lot was usually on the line when these two national powers met at the time. Typically, a Big 8 conference championship was hanging in the balance, as well as a potential bid to either the Fiesta Bowl or Orange Bowl. But nonetheless, times have definitely changed for both of these programs. Now, how will Nebraska respond after head coach Scott Frost was fired? That's going to be a big thing. Let's see how inspired that these Huskers will come out and play on Saturday. You got quarterback Casey Thompson, but more importantly, I think running back Anthony Grant is well on his way to having a big year. And this Nebraska defense, led by linebacker Luke Reimer, really needs to step up in this game and try to set a tone and keep the crowd in this game because this is a rivalry game, but this also is a game that you want to see what type of fight that these young men are going to have after their head coach got fired. On the flip side, for Oklahoma, first road game for the Sooners under new head coach Brent Venables. You look at Dylan Gabriel, he is really coming into his own in this Oklahoma offense. And it helps when you have wide receiver Marvin Mims Jr. as well as running back Eric Gray. I think linebacker Danny Stutzman is going to be active for Oklahoma in this game, as will Reggie Grimes, who already has 4 sacks this season. Nebraska will be game. They'll put up a fight. And that was one thing under Scott Frost. They were 5-22 in games decided by one possession or less. I think that trend continues in this one. Thus, I'm going to take Oklahoma on the road here by the score of 34-27. Now, in South Bend, you're going to have California traveling to take on Notre Dame. And for the Fighting Irish, they are looking to emerge from their surprising 0-2 start. Now, no more Tyler Buckner at quarterback, as it's the Drew Pine show, for the Fighting Irish. With that said, guys like Michael Meyer at tight end got to step up. And then defensively, guys like Isaiah Foskey and J.D. Bertrand in that secondary definitely have to make their impact. But you look at this Cal team, and Cal, they're flying under the radar, but they're off to a solid start. The Purdue transfer at quarterback, Jack Plummer, has been solid for the Bears. And then I expect freshman running back Jaden Ott to make a name for himself in this game. But also with this Cal defense, they have some talent over there. You look at the linebacker position with Jackson Sermon as well as Xavier Carlton. They could make life tough for the young Pine at quarterback in this one for the Fighting Irish. Notre Dame is going to have to fight, scrap, and claw for this one, as Cal is not going to lay down. I think Notre Dame wins, but they're going to have to work for it. And I'm going to give them the 27-23 edge. Now, in Eugene, it's going to be the 12th ranked Cougars out of BYU traveling to take on the 25th ranked Ducks out of the Pac 12. And for BYU, they just fly under the radar. They just simply go out there and continue to handle their business. Quarterback Jaron Hall, he's calm, cool, and collected in that pocket. And then you look at the talent around him on the offensive side of the ball, which includes Christopher Brooks at running back. And I think he's going to have a solid game in this one for the Cougars. Now, quarterback Bo Nix, he's, trying to get accustomed to things with Oregon and Dan Lanning. Obviously not in the SEC anymore. Let's see how things work out for him here in this one. But I think this is too tough of a game for Oregon, even though that they are at home. I'm going to take BYU on the road in this one by the score of 34-27. Now, with Jordan-Hare on Saturday afternoon, you're going to have the 22nd ranked Penn State Nittany Lions traveling to take on the Auburn Tigers out of the SEC. These two teams met in Happy Valley last year. It was a tightly contested game as Penn State was able to sneak by the Tigers. Now, James Franklin, the Nittany Lions head coach, knows a thing or two about winning in the SEC. As for once upon a time, he was able to turn around the fortunes of Vanderbilt. Sean Clifford at quarterback for Penn State, the fifth-year senior, very experienced, knows how to go into hostile environments. And, he has to go out there and play smart, not turn the football over, and rely on the talent around him on offense for Penn State, which includes running back Nicholas Singleton, as well as wide receivers Mitchell Tinsley and Parker Washington. Now, for Auburn quarterback TJ Finley, 3 interceptions on the year so far. And obviously that Penn State defense is going to try to key on that and put him in scenarios where he could potentially be prone to making mistakes. He still has running back Tank Bigsby as well as wide receiver Javarius Johnson. And then I also expect linebacker Cam Riley to have a big game in this one for Auburn. I think this is going to be a back and forth affair. The last team with the football wins, and it's also going to be a scenario for me. I think Penn State, they're mentally tough, and they're looking to bounce back from the up and down season last year. Thus, I'm going to take the Nittany Lions in this one by the score of 24-20. Now, in the SEC, you're going to have Mississippi State traveling to Death Valley to take on the Tigers of LSU. And for Brian Kelly, LSU's new head football coach, this is his first conference game. Now, the last time that the Bulldogs went to Tiger Stadium, it was the first game of 2020 for both of these clubs, and it was Mississippi State who upset LSU in that game. Remember, LSU was coming off of winning the national championship. Obviously, a lot of things have changed for the Bayou Bengals since then. Quarterback Jaden Daniels has really transitioned into his starting role for LSU after, getting his career started at Arizona State. Malik Neighbors, I know some people want to talk about the muff punts against Florida State, but I think he's going to have a solid impact catching the football as a receiver in this one for Brian Kelly and the Tigers. On the flip side, for Mississippi State, you look at quarterback Will Rogers, and he's right at home in this Mike Leach system as far as passing the football around. But then the Bulldogs are playing some defense this year, and I want you to keep an eye on linebacker Jet Johnson in this one for Mississippi State. I think this is going to be one of those back and forth affairs. Brian Kelly's still in the process of getting his feet wet at LSU, while Mike Leach really has his system up and running. I think that's the difference in this one. And I'm going to take Mississippi State on the road by the score of 31-27. And finally, it's going to be the 13th ranked Hurricanes out of Miami traveling to College Station to take on the 24th ranked Texas A&M Aggies. Now, this game did lose some of its sizzle as far as I'm concerned following A&M's shocking home loss last Saturday to Appalachian State. For the Aggies, they got to rely on quarterback Haynes King, and he's got to go out there, protect the football, and move Texas A&M up and down the field, but more importantly, get them in the end zone so they could score some points. But for Miami head coach Mario Cristobal, he has a solid quarterback in Tyler Van Dyke, one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC. But then also, I like the way that Miami runs the ball. And you think about Cristobal coming from Oregon, he knows how to run the football. He's a former offensive lineman. He wants to go out there and set the tone at the line of scrimmage. So you want to keep an eye on Miami running backs Henry Parrish Jr. as well as Thaddeus Franklin Jr. And I think the Canes want to run that football, want to consistently get first downs, of course, win the time of possession, and more importantly, keep the 12th man out of the game. Easier said than done. But nonetheless, I don't think that Miami is going to be intimidated by going to Kyle Field in College Station. Thus, I'm going to take the Canes on the road by the score of 30-24. So, folks, those are my key games for this weekend in the world of college football. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There is also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.